Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, the D8, from its name, it is a symposium or an organization comprising developing countries. In fact, the power of this summit is represented by the 1.2 billion individuals comprising the population of the member states, which actually comprise around 15% of the total global population as well. They represent 14%. These member states represent 14% of the total global trade. And so these member states, these 8 member states, in fact, have a great economic stature. In fact, the summit aims to scale investments between the member states and to scale economic growth in the 8 member states. And we have countries like Bangladesh, Turkey, and Egypt that give due care to SMEs. And as well, these SMEs have the ability to attract and galvanize large figures of workforce, which definitely can reflect positively on the GDP of these member states. So regarding Egypt, Egypt has great economic and cooperation and trade exchange with these 8 member states or the 7 member states. In fact, our trade with the 7 member states is actually $58 billion, and in fact we export to Turkey alone with $2 billion. In fact, we import as well from the 7 member states with a figure of $3 billion. Of course, most of them come from Turkey, but what I'm trying to say is a summit like the D8 summit can definitely scale trade exchange between Egypt and the member states of the D8. Specifically that Egypt, in fact, is a member of other economic blocs like the G8 or the D8 and others, in fact.
Yes. Now, with Egypt's presidency focusing on empowering youth, we've seen the theme today. Now, how can the D8 summit catalyze sustainable development in those member states?
Most definitely regarding SMEs, there are a lot of things we can say. Like, for instance, Bangladesh has a great expertise under the leadership of Dr. Mohammed Yunus, who in fact has done a doctoral thesis on decreasing Bangladesh or poverty levels in Bangladesh. And when Dr. Yunus, in fact, came back to his country after he received his doctoral degree, he established the Grameen Bank, which, in fact, played a major role in lending provider women in the country, which actually, of course, increased employment levels in the country. In fact, SMEs are quite viable, specifically in population-dense countries. Like in this country, like in one of the countries, we have Nigeria. The population over there is mostly youth, and the total population of these member states is 1.2 billion individuals, which, as I have said before, a great number. In fact, a country as well like Malaysia pays due care to SMEs, and Egypt is a leading country when it comes to fostering SMEs. And in fact, there is an advisor to the Prime Minister that is in charge of the subject of entrepreneurship. And through his mandate, he doesn't just provide financial institutions, but there are other non-financial institutions, like, for instance, facilitating the issuance of licenses and documentations for SME entities led by youth entrepreneurs. In fact, SMEs are the cornerstone on which major economies can predicate upon. Here we have Japan as an example, India as an example of countries that have built their entire economies on
the SMEs.
The power and the influence of SMEs as well. There are a lot of production sectors that were discussed in the summit, like Indonesia and Malaysia, for instance, who discussed agriculture elaboratively. In fact, in Egypt, we had an agricultural acreage of 9.3 million acres, and Egypt increased this figure by 3 additional million acres, which of course decreased poverty levels in the country.
Right. Now, to another area, the political one, and given the challenges in the Middle East, particularly in Gaza and Syria, now, how significant were those special sessions on Palestine and Lebanon for the D8 diplomatic efforts? And how do you assess the speeches that were made today by the presidents? And definitely, how would the world perceive the messages given in those speeches?
In fact, the summit is right now being held in tumultuous juncture in the region, whether in Syria, in Gaza, or in Lebanon. And so we have seen President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and President Erdogan speaking elaboratively on the dichotomous measures held by a lot of the major countries in the international community. You know, the war in Palestine has exceeded 400 days right now. We have around 109 million displaced persons and refugees. And because of these wars, and 70% of the infrastructure in Gaza has been completely demolished. And of course, Lebanon needs around $5 million in order to restore its infrastructure.